a huge amount of free money left on the table at this point because of the complicated processes. Roughly 8 to 10 billions of eligible claims are not being claimed nowadays, and we're just hoping to expand the market.
Before we get started with the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor, Global Training Center. As trade compliance professionals, you want to make sure that your procedures and documentation are completed as correctly as possible to avoid any delays and possible fines. We provide a range of trade compliance courses that will fit your needs. From in-person or web training to recorded on-demand courses, we can train one or even thousands on your team through your learning platform or on our portal. We can even customize a private session for your team. Go to globaltrainingcenter.com to find out more.
Folks, we're in for a great show today on Simply Trade Podcast. And Penny is one of the two that, actually, Lala, you wound up meeting them first and all that. So once you introduce Penny here with PAX, and it's like, this is fascinating, folks. You're going to love this because Penny and her partner are just so phenomenal. But it's really cool. So, Lala, why don't you introduce Penny for us?
So again, very active, moving around everywhere in the room. I first met her partner in the business for PAX. His name is Christopher Lee. He came up to me, and we're just talking about Global Training Center because we were there representing Global Training Center, and then one thing led to another, and he told me that they're part of this. How can I explain it? They're part of a group that incubates, and not necessarily incubates, but also helps. And Penny will explain this a little better, which I've known about for many years. Of course, being in technology and following technology, my kids are both software engineers, computer engineers, et cetera, and they're in the business and all that. So I kind of tend to follow that. But anyway, there's a organization called Y Combinator. In case y'all haven't heard of them, just Google it and you'll know what I'm talking about. And Penny will elaborate a little bit more on that. But he said, we're part of Y Combinator. We got selected to be part of that. They have different groups or classes or whatnot, and this was the summer selection. They're in the summer of 2024. And again, Penny will explain that a little better. So we got to talking, and it's like, I said, so what are you doing in AI? And are you doing yet another supply chain tracing? And it's like, oh, no, this is very different. I was like, okay, yeah, right. And she said, and not she, he said, you got to meet Penny. We got to talk to you about this. It's all on drawback. And I'm like, holy smokes, I haven't heard that in years. Drawback is so old school, so traditional, because it is very complicated. Let me just say that. It really is. If you're doing drawback and if you're not outsourcing it, then you must have a really good staff doing that, because it is a very, very cumbersome, tedious task. And then when I heard Penny and Chris telling us that they're doing it on drawback, software for AI, I was like, all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's just talk to these. Keep on calling you kids. I'm sorry, y'all are adults. You are adults.
Yeah.
But I call you kids because you're the same age as my children, and my kids are my kids. Of course, yes. Nothing disrespectful, Penny, at all. In fact, it's
for sure
more. And me being Hispanic and Latino, it's almost a term of endearment. And honestly, that I really
I love being called kids. I wish I can be called kids longer. I just turned 30, so I wish that.
Okay. Nice going. Well, Penny, go ahead and introduce yourself and your company, and let's get going on that.
For sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Penny. I'm a CEO of PAX. My co-founder is Christopher Lee. Lala mentioned it. We started a company very recently, a few months ago. And as Lala said, we got into this accelerator called Y Combinator, where they help incubate and guide new businesses to help them shape their business model, give them sufficient funding so that they can both quit their full-time job to do this full-time. And we will, under their help, we will have fundraising and keep growing our businesses. And maybe a little bit about myself. My background is actually pretty far away from trade and compliance. I graduated from MIT back in 2022. My PhD is in algorithm design, where we apply advanced algorithm in solving supply chain and transportation problems. And so actually my PhD is, most of the PhD work I have done is working with Amazon, help them improve their order fulfillment algorithm. And what that does is basically whenever you order something on Amazon.com, Amazon needs to in real time decide how to ship your order. And that decision includes like which warehouse to ship from, what delivery route to take. And all these decisions need to be made in milliseconds because order keep coming into the system. So it's impossible for human to make that decision. And therefore like algorithm exists. And so to make a good decision, you of course need to have a lot of data-driven information. I won't go into the detail, but it's a very interesting problem that we are trying to make it more automated, more cost-efficient, more streamlined. And then after I graduated, I joined Flexport as a research scientist, where I was designing pricing algorithm for air freights. Flexport is a freight forwarder company, and they want to make a more data-driven decision in their pricing offerings. So in order to do that, we need to take into account demand forecast, pricing forecast, what's the price that would look like over the time in the market, and what are the inventory that we have purchased, what's the future demand look like. All these information need to be taken into account to make a good pricing decision. So that's what I was doing at Flexport. And at some point, Flexport was exploring duty drawback. We also have a duty drawback business that is super young, but it's growing it's growing a lot because Flexport already have like a lot of import exporter as their customer. And they already have data digitalized. So they were able to identify if their existing customer are qualified for duty drawback or not. And so because of that advantage, the duty drawback business at Flexport grows a lot, grows crazily over time. And they want to make the process better because, as you and many folks might know, it's a pretty complicated process. It involves a lot of data collection from different sources, from unstructured data, and then massaging the data into actually solver ingestible format where there's not many choice of software out there to do the claim calculation. So Flexport at the time, we have a team of research scientists, which I was in the team. We were looking into designing advanced algorithm to make the calculation better. And also we have engineering team, so we want to streamline the whole end-to-end process. And so that's how I got to know duty drawback. It's a very interesting space, and I'll stop there, but that's how I get to,
You're at today. So, all right. So let's just stop for just a quick second, because we have, in fairness to, some of you seasoned people, that are listeners, just give me a quick second here, because we have a lot of listeners that are rookies in the industry, if you will, or new, or may not even be in, supply chain and compliance and all this other. So I just want to take a quick stop here. You hear the term duty drawback, and what it means very quickly in a nutshell is like you're literally filing an entry, if you will, with the government to claim back or draw back duty that you've already paid. Well, where does that come into play? It's like, let's say that you bring in, 10,000 widgets, and you import those in and you pay the duties and taxes on all that. And you've imported that into the U.S. in this particular scenario, and you now sell, let's say, 2,000 of those widgets, and you export those to out of the country somewhere, South America, Europe, whatever. And so now you can draw back the duty that you paid on 2,000 of those widgets from the 10,000 that you initially paid. That's the duty drawback process. Now, in doing that, is that There's a lot of complexities with that. That shipment could have come in one time. It could have come in over a series of multiple shipments being imported into the U.S. Now you're exporting it, and you may be exporting, let's say, 100 units now, 500 units next shipment, 200 units. So you're doing those things, and you can consolidate a lot of those things and put them into an entry and to do the drawback. So basically, that duty drawback is very data driven. You've got to be able to tie things back to, well, I'm exporting these widgets now. This is when it was imported and how it was imported and all these things. So there's a lot of complexities in that, but you can imagine also as far as your inventories and what was imported, what was exported, and all those kinds of things. It's a tremendous amount of data that is used to compile all of that. So with that, all right, Penny, I've got you set up. It's like, so you have now designed a software program that will help me if I am an importer, and now we're going to importer exporter. I'm a company here, and I'm selling these goods. So I now want to look at, can I do duty drawback, and I've got to get some of this information together for a broker to file that duty drawback entry. So before I do, it's my understanding now you have a system that will help me in gathering all this data and doing whatever I got to do, or somehow make it easier for me, right?
Exactly. So we work with the broker, and then we help you gather your data in a more efficient manner. We built some tool to assist that process. For example, we have some customer of us have their data in PDFs. So we have a PDF extraction tool that instead of you looking at the PDF to do the manual entries to collect the right data required for duty drawback, we extract information from PDF automatically and send it to a sovereign ingestible format. So that's one tool that we built. Other tools we built are like ERP integration, where you might have your data sits in Oracle, NetSuite, CargoWise, or SAP, all these systems. And you don't want to just manually every time go in and then download the necessary stuff, clean it, and then send it to your broker. So we will help you set up automatic ERP integration such that our system will pull the right amount of data for duty drawback claim in a real-time manner. So you never need to worry about the mapping, the download, the cleaning.
Penny, are you targeting the importer, or are you targeting the broker to use this, or both? In other words, can an importer file their own drawback using your software, or are they still going to be able to work with a broker with that?
Yeah. So as a very young company, now we focus on building the solver part, which is the more professional solver for broker. So that's our target audience. But for importer that doesn't have too complicated claims, they are the first time doing it, their supply chain is pretty straightforward. We offer free consultation. And then we also offer, if they are a simple case, we can do it in-house. But if it's a complicated case, we work with the broker to help them sort the details out, especially when they're first time onboarding to duty drawback.
See, and Lala, that is a great question, because where I'm seeing this, Penny, is that this would be a phenomenal enhancement to brokers that are doing duty drawback. They may be well established in the industry, but this would be a way for them and their staff to become much more productive in processing and helping an importer and gathering information and all that. Once you're set up and you're going in and dealing with it to the point where they would be able to expand their business and handle even more traffic, because there's a huge drawback industry here. There's a lot of business that just, a lot of drawbacks that just can't get done because the staff, people just can't get to them. So it sounds like from a customs broker perspective, you would have a phenomenal tool there, if you will, that would enhance their capabilities.
Exactly. So nowadays in the industry, if your claim is less than 100K, you're usually rejected by the brokers because the amount of work they need to put into your claim doesn't make up. So with our tool, we're hoping to make broker more efficient so that the bar is lowered. More company can be benefit from duty drawback, although they have very small claim amount.
Yeah, how funny that you say that, because that was on my notes. I have them right here in front of me, and I was going to ask you, will this now lower the bar? So perfect. Thank you for reading my mind. So that, because you're right. If you are an importer and you go to your broker and you think, oh my goodness, I'm going to get all this money back. I mean, 100,000 is a lot of money, but like you said, Penny, it is a lot more work. It is so much work to get it done, and you are turned down, but me as an importer, even if I'm a small importer, I mean, 100,000 can really make a difference for me, for my bottom line. So yeah, that's good that you said that. I'm glad that you brought that up. So
exactly. We hope to democratize the space for SMBs.
What is it that I need to do if I'm an importer and I'm interested in this, or, again, we're talking about customs brokers. I think that we'll get to that one in a second. But if I'm an importer, I'm going, I probably am leaving money on the table. I'm a small business owner here, small, medium, whatever you want to call it. But I've been turned down, if you will, by brokers. Well, I get it. I understand, but I'm still, every dollar that I can save or recoup is a dollar to my bottom line. It's big. What should I do in this? If I'm interested in following up with y'all, what do I need to do?
I would say, give me a call. We offer a free consultation. We will ask for your import-export activity. We will ask for basic information about your import and export data so that we can give you an estimate on how much duty first of all, are you even qualified? And then secondly, what's the estimated drawback out of your current activity? And actually for the future, how can you get more duty drawback out of it?
Well, and to that point, folks, we're going to have Penny's contact information in our show notes. So don't worry. It was like, all right, trying to write down anything is like, but it's PAX. So it's PAX, right? Is the name of your company.
Correct.
And the website is getpaxai.com. So it's GETPAXAI.com. So, but again, it'll be in the show notes. Penny and her partner, Chris, their LinkedIn will also be in the show notes. So look down there and you'll find out more. But anyway, so let's keep.
Well, and I also want to say is that, at this point, you're not paying for an advertisement here or whatever, folks. We just, Lalo saw this. This is a very unique company and development, and we wanted to highlight Penny and Chris were just so phenomenal to talk to. And to top it off, they're listeners of the show. That was another thing that was really cool.
That is what I was very impressed with. I mean, then Chris pulled out his phone and said, I listened to your show. Look. And he showed me his phone. He said, I'm not joking. I'm telling you, I'm listening to your show. And I really appreciate that the younger generation, those that are coming into the industry, use our show to learn about trade. He said, I've learned a lot about trade, in your show. And then we got to talking about other little things, where my daughter works, and he's met the founder of that company. And so we found a lot of connections and everything. So it was really cool how honestly, I guess that's a hint to anybody that's out there that's the startup. And you don't have to be young like Penny or Chris, or, we have another group that we met there for another company, that are going to come on our show here soon. But that's a good hint as to what kind of content and people we may have on the show. So if you come up to me and say, yeah, we're a startup, or it doesn't even have to be a startup. I mean, just something interesting and new. I mean, I'm telling you, you're coming on the show.
Our listeners love this stuff. Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Yeah. Just come up to us and talk to us.
Yeah, Lalo, and Yeah, Chris has taught so many good things about the show. I think in general, because we're so young, so new to the space, we just want to be so immersed in the space. The podcast we listen to, the events we go to are all related to this.
Well, that's fantastic. We love y'all. It's just great. And again, it's one of those things where, when we're the format that we're doing this in and with the recordings and then we publish it and all that, it's kind of hard to get some feedback, and we're always listening. It's like, all right, are we, heading in the wrong direction, whatever. But when we make a public appearance and we're out and about, it is so humbling, but so fantastic to get to hear firsthand from somebody. And it's like, oh, wow, this is great. All right. So let me ask this is that, all right, reaching out to you is one thing, but what do I need to do is like, let's say that, all right, something works with my broker and y'all and everything comes together. Am I going to need to buy a certain computer to load this thing or put this on a server, or is it just cloud-based, or what is it I need to do? And is it subscription-based, or is it going to be through the broker? How are you setting things up to use your service?
For the importers, right?
Yes, for the importers at this point.
For the importers, our software is very simple. There's no need for any setup. It's a URL away. So you'll have the link. It's a web-based app. So you will need to log into our system, and then you'll need to ingest your import and export data so that we get to work on your data. So all you need to do on the importer side is you need to share your data source. Either you upload it or you link it to your ERP system. It's a few clicks away. It's a few clicks away from your ERP system. It means that once we get the login from you, and also the mapping, the detailed way of how you structure your integrated. Sorry, I think I need to rephrase, but so for importers, the way it works is you go on our web-based app, and then you will be able to share your data in terms of either it's a PDF or CSV that you want to upload, or you have your data in your ERP system. You will be able to integrate it with our platform, and that's the starting point. And then we will get back to you within 3 business days on your eligibility and an estimated duty drawback claim amount. And then we'll move from there. Usually we will ask for additional information to support your claim. But if the data you already give us according to our instruction are pretty clear and sufficient, then that's it. We take over everything. We will do the calculation, and then we will let you review the calculation results. We'll submit it for you to CBP with ABI transmission. And then you'll be able to track your claim status in our webpage. You'll be able to see if it's submitted, what's the status of it, when you will get the money back.
All right. With that, I think the other side is working with a broker, which I think would be, Penny, I'll just tell you this. I think you've got a great niche, and I'm not at all trying to undermine what you're wanting to do with importers directly. But if somebody is new to the industry and all that, I think it would be wise to work with their broker and align with that, because that to me is like, all right, so with a broker in the initial setting, I'm sure that data would be coming through. The broker probably has a lot of this information already. So it would be a great enhancement from a broker's perspective to utilize your software, wouldn't it?
I 100% agree. So as an importer, if you're already working with the broker, we strongly encourage you to let your broker talk to us, because they might know more about where your data sits in than you do. And we actually help brokers who do not have duty drawback service set up one, because brokers, not every brokers offer duty drawback, but most of the broker know a lot about where your data sits in, how you manage your ACE system, where do you have your entries. And so broker already have sufficient knowledge to start doing duty drawback with our software's help, because our software is doing the quote unquote complicated stuff, the calculation piece. And as a broker, as long as you know where the data sits and what are the data required for different type of drawback, you basically are almost there to set up your duty drawback program.
Even if you are working with a broker to do your drawback, and this is through experience, of course, because when we used to sell, when I was selling software and developing and supporting software, et cetera, we used to have a drawback software solution. Okay, so and it ran at the broker's facility, let's call it, right? So what happened at that point was that the broker, they can calculate and do all these really neat things and file your drawback and everything, but here's the complicated part. They go to you, the importer, and they say, give me all your data, like you said, Penny, and give me all your information, et cetera. What I'm seeing here, and maybe I'm wrong, but your solution helps on both ends, not just the broker, but the importer, to gather that data, filter it, read it from the ERP, and eliminate all that work that normally you would need to do manually, which is a lot of it is manual. And because I have been there, that you need to put together so that then you can hand over to your broker. And then the broker then puts it together with, like you said, your ACE data, all your entries and all that. So that makes sense, but it's just, it's those 3 or 4 or 5 months that the broker has to wait for you to get all that information, because it's just a lot of information. So that's what you're saying, is that you're bringing those two together, bringing your software, interfacing with the SAPs, the Oracles, et cetera. You're bringing that in, bring it and combining it, because exactly, your AI software knows exactly what you need from there, so that you can then push it over to your broker and facilitate that for them, correct?
Exactly. You capture it really, really well.
Okay.
All right. So here's the thing and as I'm looking at this is where I want to go. And Lalo, I guess I'm going to tap your expertise here and let you comment with pulling this together. So I hear a phenomenal software program and system, I guess, if you will, that Penny and Chris have built. As they're going through and looking at that, sitting down at some point after the initial, okay, we want to check this out. All right. So you have a working meeting of people coming together to make this thing a reality. Here's a project. We're going to put together, identify the steps of how to implement utilizing PAX. To that sense, then I'm looking at it, you're going to definitely have your compliance and your logistics folks, but you definitely have to have probably more than one person from your IT department. You're going to have your data security levels on some of that, but then you're going to need to have people that are familiar, and it may be multiple, that are running, that manage the data files and the archives and all that kind of stuff regarding the different systems, from accounting to your ERPs the enterprise resource planning, by the way, if you don't know what ERP is, your warehouse management systems, to all those kinds of things. And then you're going to have, maybe even some of the operations and things, and where you're going with your customer orders and things of that nature. So even customer order data comes into play in this. And as we're looking through all these things that are going on, then you definitely have to have your broker involved that knows what you're doing. Obviously the folks from PAX and anybody else. I mean, Lalo, I don't, when you're selling software and you're out there, it's like, all right, it's time to actually implement it. Who else am I missing here that somebody needs to look at and say, this would be a very productive strategic meeting with all of these entities put into place?
If you're asking me, I think you pretty much covered everybody that's involved. So, I mean, I'm sure Penny will know as well, because those are all the parties that I think, Penny, you're going to interface as you go through the sales process, right?
Yeah, we are interfacing with them. As you said, I think we position ourselves, Chris and I, both of us our background is in tech. We are not LCBs. We are not, trade compliance experts. So we are partnering very closely with the industry experts who actually have 10 plus years of experience in not only the trade of compliance space, but in drawback specifically.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I got to say, this is fascinating that as is going through. Now, you've actually launched your system now, right?
We do. So there's in duty drawback, there's multiple provisions. One very popular one, it's called unused substitution. We launch our solver for that specific provision for free on our website. So if you are interested to, try it out, get your hands dirty, you can go on our website, upload your import export data and see how the matches goes, because we are pretty proud of the matches we produce. The matches are powered by advanced algorithms. So supposedly it should give you the optimal results, the optimal matches that derives the maximum duty drawback. Period. That should be the best match on earth. No algorithm, no heuristic, no solver should be able to beat it. It should be strictly better.
Excellent. This is a whole new niche again of the application of AI technology, where it's taking the data, looking at it, making judgment calls, but all of that is set up in your algorithm, like you said, where somebody has to sit down and as you've worked through that to say, here are the parameters, the if-thens. If the data says this, then I can do X. If it says, something else, then I have to do Y. And as it goes through and doing it in just milliseconds and all that is just, that's where Lalo and I would be considered the old coots in the industry here now. Oh, okay. No. How's that working? Yeah, get your okay. No, seriously. But it's like, Penny, you and Chris, it's like, this is so invigorating. Folks, this is cool stuff. And it's one of those things where, yeah, there's advancements in this, but especially from a brokerage, customs broker perspective, this is one of those, you hear so much about, our entry system does this and that, and that's fine for entry systems. But this is a whole nother function that is applying some automation that should really help your frontline staff become so much more productive and so much more effective, where they're going to be able to utilize their expertise to say, hey, the grunt work has been pulled together. I can look at it, and I'm sure there's some tweaking that they'll do and all that, but it's like, I just see phenomenal potential in this.
Yeah, thank you, Andy, for putting it in a better way that I can put it. But yeah, I think the goal here is we want to translate, the more we work on that, the more we realize how complicated it is. And it really requires a lot of expert insights to make a drawback claim decent. And all we want to do here is to translate that knowledge, that expertise, that experience, translate it into algorithms so that we can help assist the whole process, such as less manual, more efficient, and more welcoming to people who don't have sufficient knowledge to do it in a complicated fashion.
So I see it as a win-win for both the broker, the customs broker in this case, and the importer exporter. I just see phenomenal things, as well as, quite frankly, when it comes to, customs, when they're doing the assessment and when the information is presented and whatnot. So, not only do you have a benefit for, like I said, the broker, the importer and all that, I see a reduction in cycle times in the processing of a duty drawback entry, all that kind of stuff. So it's like phenomenal stuff. So we're going to definitely be watching and looking to see. I can't wait to see how this is just going to mushroom out. So,
Thank you. So. Yes, there's really a huge amount of free money left on the table at this point because of the complicated processes. Roughly 8 to 10 billions of eligible claims are not being claimed nowadays, and we're just hoping to expand the market.
Say, to that extent, let me just stop again, is that to U.S. manufacturers that you're bringing in, you're importing product and then you're turning around exporting, it becomes a component, and then you're exporting some things out. There are eligibility requirements there, but you would be able to do drawback on some of that. You'd be able to, if you're importing a widget and just selling it straight out and going out, then you can do some things there. There's all kinds of things and opportunities. But if you're a small manufacturer or any kind of manufacturer and you have been predominantly selling in the U.S., so that U.S. domestic market is your market, but you're looking at maybe expanding or have recently expanded into other markets internationally. Let's say you're selling now in Brazil or in Europe or over in Asia somewhere or Australia or wherever, up in Canada. Canada and U.S. are huge trading partners. All that to say, you have an opportunity here to potentially improve your bottom line. So your CFOs, you need to, your financial officers, you guys need to be asking questions of your compliance people. Are we taking advantage of any duty drawback programs? And if not, why not? And so that's where it starts. So that kind of stuff. That's where I'm like, empowering people to look at it. And if you're the CEO or chief operating officer of companies and looking at it, is like, this is something where you can help improve your margins without really, the data's already there. You just got to take advantage of it. If you are in the marketing area and you're looking at, hey, our product would be good to sell into a new product or new market, internationally. This is a way to help justify the cost to open up that market. I'm just like, I see all kinds of potential positive.
Exactly. And the good news is duty drawback, you can trace, it's a retroactive thing. So if you are not doing it now, it's okay. You can go back 5 years of data to get the free money back, for all the,
There you go. Well, I love it. Penny, thank you so much for being on our show. First off, thank you so much for coming up.
No, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. And so I guess we'll see you probably in Dallas. Are you going to ICPA in Dallas? Or
we will be there. We will be there.
So we'll see you there in October, and looking forward to having more conversation, finding out that you are now expanding even more, because the way technology grows, and from 1 month to the next, you're all of a sudden, that much bigger. So I'm really looking forward to you, and we're cheering for you guys.
Thank you so much. I hope we grow with the industry. Thank you.
There you go. Folks, we're going to turn it back over to you. You have a great day. Please like us, share us, give some comments if you think this is like, oh no, they're crazy, or you're excited about it or whatever. Let us know what you think. And with that, have a great day.
Thank you very much for joining us. Simply Trade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, or would like to sponsor Simply Trade, or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com, or you can DM us on Twitter at simplytradepod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only, and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.